professional fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my instructions at all times. Touch him up. Back to the corner.
So we're set to go here for our opening contest. The 22-year-old David Stevens had that viral last-second knockout win over Sean Hemphill on ShowBox in January of this year. Looking to build upon that momentum, and here he is, the former world title challenger, the 38-year-old Marco Antonio Periban. He's looking to see what he has left in the tank here tonight, round one. This one's scheduled for 8 rounds in the super middleweight division. See Stevens in the black trunks trimmed with red, Marco Periban in the trunks adorned with the colors of the flag of Mexico.
Yeah, Periban has a lot of experience. He's been in there with some world champions. He's competed and given them everything they can handle. So this is the type of fighter you don't want to let him get too comfortable to get into the experience, to get the blood flowing. You want to catch him cold. If you're Stevens, you have the power. You got to take the fight to him immediately.
Stevens' trainer, Ronnie Shields, told us in fighter meetings the game plan is simply to hit Periban everywhere. Hit him in the arms, hit him even when it isn't a clean shot, just make him uncomfortable. And you know, that seems like the kind of strategy that you would take, Sergio, against a fighter like Periban, about whom there are questions about how much he has left.
Well, anytime you're dealing with a fighter that's in his late 30s, that's had so much wear and tear on his body, of course you have questions. But I mean, when you're a fighter, you know that they don't belong in the ring with you, and you want to try to make them feel their age as fast as possible.
Good
That's
left
what Stevens
uppercut.
is doing.
A good left uppercut connected there from Stevens, and a big right hand comes over the top.
Periban does take a good shot, but if you can catch him cold early and don't let him get warmed up, don't let him get the cobwebs out, those punches are going to hurt a lot more.
Periban goes downstairs with a right hand, comes back upstairs with a straight right down the middle.
And you can see that Periban's legs, even though he has strong hands, he has strong punches, his legs aren't under him. The foundation's not there. You know, he's going to be falling off balance the more this fight goes, like you see there. The legs go, Corey. That's what happens with boxing. You know, boxing retires you. We all know that, but it's because the legs, they're just not there anymore.
Well, and frankly, Periban looked a little concerning in his most recent outing against Patrick McCrory. He was knocked out in the 5th round. He said that he just mentally wasn't all there in that fight. Now here we are, basically a full year later. We'll see what Periban has to test the hot prospect, David Stevens.
See, Periban is getting a little bit too comfortable with that left hand down, and he really needs to keep those hands up. Stevens has a really good jab. He comes long, has good timing behind it, just like that. And when he starts getting the combinations going like that, he has the speed and the power to turn your lights out.
Watch the back of the head, watch the back of the head, watch the back of the head.
Inside the final 15 seconds of the opening round, another right hand, a chopping shot there from David Stevens.
Periban took that good. Those are the type of shots by the ear that can really have impact.
10 seconds, 10 segundos.
Good action here in the opening round.
How it feel? Good. Look, you got to set traps for the dude. I want you to put this guy back to the rope or in the corner. That way you have time to sit down and work with it. Okay? You can force him back, force him back. It's easy with your jab. You're jabbing him good. Keep the jab up high though. Forget about jabbing him low. Keep the jab up high. Now you want to throw the right hand down there, that's good. But you're throwing the right hand up top good. You hitting it with it, but you only hitting it.
And this is one of the punches that we're going to see a lot of, is the uppercut, because Periban is bending down, and there's an opening right there for uppercuts and overhand rights just like that. That was a clean shot. If Stevenson would have stepped a little closer with that left foot, it would have done a lot more damage.
Round 2 begins. And during the break, we were listening in to David Stevens' corner and Ronnie Shields, as he was telling him to be a little bit more active with his jab, to throw it down to the body, bring it back up top. And Sergio, Stevens was telling us that when they first got together as fighter and trainer, that was the main thing they were working on, is getting his left hand a little bit more active.
Yeah, and that, I mean, the left hand, the jab can come from your hips. That's what he was doing, but Ronnie Shields doesn't want him to do that against an experienced fighter like Periban. You want to keep that jab straight from chin to chin. You don't want to get lazy with a fighter like this. And you also could hit that jab to the chest. Older fighters hate getting pushed back when you're pushing them back with jabs to the belly and the chest.
Periban misses over the top of the right hand, but digs a good left hook to the body.
That's a nice combination right there. Periban did he's hiding pretty well behind the guard. But that uppercut, the uppercut is bound to land.
Trade left hooks there. Stevens gets there first. Periban correcting something that you pointed out in the opening round, just carrying that left hand a little bit too low. Now trying to work behind a higher shell.
Good body shot by Periban. Left hook to the body.
Periban's certainly not gun shy here in the opening 2 rounds, but again he gets cracked with a left hook. Stevens said he thought that this could be an early night. And if he keeps landing shots like that, he might make good on his promise.
Clean break, clean break, clean break.
You know, David Stevens' power comes behind timing. It doesn't really, timing and technique. It doesn't come behind speed. You know, he's not the fastest guy, but he is accurate with that jab and that hook. Wow.
Jumps in with a beautiful left hook to Stevens.
As big as Stevens is, I mean, he's a muscular fighter. He's very athletic and fast. He's pretty quick off the trigger with his punches.
Well, in our fighter meetings that were just about an hour after weigh-ins yesterday, Stevens told us he was already 181 pounds, and that's after weighing 168. So this is a big, rugged 168-pounder in Stevens.
Punch up, punch up, punch up. Break, step back.
See a little bit of swelling and an abrasion on the left side of the face of Marco Antonio Periban.
Both these fighters fight really relaxed, and of course that helps you absorb a punch if you're Periban, and it makes you just fight off instinct if you're Stevens. That's exactly how you want your fighter to be fighting. Relaxed, but on point.
Triple left hook there for Periban. He has had some success with those hooks to the body. But the eye-catching moments obviously coming from David Stevens.
Good head movement by Stevens. That's going to take the legs of Periban later.
Eso es todo, nada más no te me confíes, carnal. ¿Cómo te sientes? Dime cómo lo vas sintiendo ahí. Ok. Esa es la clave. Dice, va aflojando, esa es la clave. Él siente un golpe tuyo duro y se te va a aventar. Te va a estar aventando con todo. Tienes que estar bien inteligente ahí para bloquear. Él no te está haciendo esto, la derecha y el gancho. Pero me estás trabajando el jab y esta mano me la estás bajando. No quiero esta mano aquí. Ya vea, pero tu mano aquí. Puedes cambiarlo porque él se avienta así, mira. Agacha la cabeza y se avienta. Entonces debes de estar bien inteligente ahí. Ojo con esta pierna, no te me vayas a...
There's that left hook coming around the guard of Periban. If that second one would have landed, we're going to see Periban get a lot shook. He has a good chin, but at 38 years old, it's the legs that you got to worry about. So right now, Stevens just needs to keep applying that pressure behind that jab. Double and triple up those jabs, dig downstairs.
It's round 3 underway. Of course, we were looking in the corner of Marco Antonio Periban, but when we're looking in the corner of David Stevens, we're probably not going to be worried about cuts for him here tonight, which is usually what we're talking about when we look in the corner. We might be looking at his footwear, because for the last 4 rounds or so against Sean Hemphill, last time out, the sole of his boxing boot was falling off, and eventually they had to cut it off. He scored that dramatic knockout effectively with one good shoe.
I think that's happened, you know, wardrobe malfunctions happen to every fighter. I've had the sole of my shoe, my trunks get unsewn, wet gloves. I've had everything. In Periban's corner, actually, I heard them saying they liked the last round. They liked what he was doing. They don't want him to exchange too much with Stevens, and that's exactly what Periban's doing. He's using the ring, he's using experience, fighting at the end of that jab, and trying to have control of the action as much as possible.
Punch up, punch up, punch
See
up.
Stevens trying to walk him down with that stiff jab.
Yeah, but he has to double and triple up that jab. One's not going to be enough. You know, just like that. Older fighters hate being out jabbed. Periban has a little twitch on his wrist right before he punches.
Periban looks like he might be in a little bit of trouble. He's trying to grab a hold. Stevens on the attack here. Periban shaking his head to indicate that he's okay. The legs may be telling a different story.
The legs have been telling a different story, but there's courage and there's fight in the eye of Periban. Stevens needs to just focus on the body right now. Jab down to the body, that stick to the body. Double him down. And then the overhand rights will open up.
Well, Sergio, you asked him in fighter meetings, point blank, fighter to fighter, if things aren't going your way, say around the midway point of this fight, are you willing to go down fighting? And he said, yeah, if that happens, I'm just going to say screw it and go for it.
Yeah, no, because I want to know if he has that mentality, you know, that not be satisfied with another, you know, decision or something like that. You want to make sure you have a fighter that's willing to go out on the shield. Good body shot by Stevens. Periban's holding his own, I tell you.
Absolutely is. Periban has landed a trio of right hands there.
He's landed some good chopping right hands on the tempo of Stevens.
Again, Periban told us he just wasn't focused against Padraig McCrory. And Stevens took a shot there. What will the referee see?
That's a knockdown. That's a knockdown.
Yes, it is.
That's only going to encourage the older fighter in Marco Periban. Good right hand to the body, man.
Things getting interesting.
That's all right, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Ain't nothing we can do about it. Look, you got this guy hurt now, okay? Don't be, just set your right, take your time. Relax, okay? Look, stay behind your jab, keep your head moving. Go to the body, I'm gonna see more body work in there. The right hand is there. When you throw the right hand, bring the hook right back behind the right hand, okay? Everything, you want some more water?
Yeah.
Okay? Behind the right hand, bring the hook back behind the right hand.
Well, let's take a look at the replay of the knockdown here from the previous round.
I believe it was a left hook right there. Boom. Landed on the top of the cheek. Periban trying to hold on. Stevens doing the right thing, pushing him off. But there's that check cuffing hook by Periban. It wasn't really a punch, but hey, listen, the referee countered it. It was a cuffing type punch by Marco Periban.
So a big moment for Marco Antonio Periban, and as you mentioned, Sergio, maybe the boost of confidence that he needs to really kick it into a different gear here. He said that the key for him in this fight is distance and lateral movement, and as he started to establish that a little more in the previous round, it eventually produced a good moment for him.
No, it does, and like I said, he fights really patient with like an old bull. He has that old bull mentality. So you got to force this man to fight, and this is exactly what Stevens is doing, but he also needs to be careful as well. Fight behind the jab for Stevens, don't forget the body. That's exactly what Ronnie Shields told him in the corner as well. More body work. Both corners want more body work.
This type of fight, obviously not entirely unexpected for David Stevens. He was in that firefight against Sean Hemphill. And I'm sure many at home surprised to see him touch the canvas, even if we're debating the validity of the knockdown or how much he was hurt. Still, some adversity for Stevens to have to overcome here in his young career.
See, Stevens is looking for one big punch, and a fighter as strong as him, you know, and this is all comes with maturity. It comes with experience, and especially when you're dealing with a fighter as experienced as Periban, you have to slow down the pace. Think about technique and the technique before the power.
Good left hook that landed from Stevens a moment ago, just behind the ear of Periban, and we've seen him hurt with shots just like that. Right hands behind the ear, shots to the temple. They have wobbled him in recent bouts against McCrory and against Josh Buatsi.
Yeah, but that's older. I mean, that's recent, you know. In Periban's heyday, which was about 10 years ago, I mean, he fought beasts, strong fighters like Sakio Bika, you know, champions like Badu Jack. So he knows what power's like, you know, James DeGale. He knows what power's like. Power doesn't intimidate veterans. They don't intimidate these old lions. It's speed, agility, footwork, and making them miss. That's exactly how they feel out of place and like they don't belong.
Good body shot again from Periban. He's had success with that left hook downstairs.
Body shot by Periban. That's a dangerous punch to throw, a straight right hand to the body of your opponent. But Periban, for as tall as he is, he bends down his knees and gets down low. I mean, just a tricky veteran. He knows how to get away with the danger of the punches that he's attempting to throw.
Este round no tiraste mucho, estuviste esperando. ¿Cómo lo sientes, sabes? Bien, bien, bien. Normal, normal. Ok, su pegada de él. No. Ok, pero no quiero que te confíes. Viene el quinto, carnal. Tenemos que ganar más clarito. Ese golpeo al cuerpo lo quiero más intenso en este round. Ya los demás, para que ya esté. Él sale un minuto a querer que agarrar con un solo golpe. Tienes que ser muy inteligente. Un minuto sale nada más con todo, carnal. Así como lo estás trabajando. Pero no me gusta que te quedes, carnal. No me gusta que te quedes. Mejor, entonces, si te vas a quedar, ciérrate bien. La mirada a él para que bloquees, veas el hueco y me puedas pegar con todo. ¿Ok, hermano?
There's that right hand. And Periban's doing a great job of rolling with these punches. You know, not all of them, but that's what fighters of his caliber, of his experience, of his age, that's what they do. They take the power off the shot by turning their cheek just slightly.
So round 5 underway. This one's scheduled for 8, our opening contest between David Stevens and Marco Antonio Periban. Periban scoring a flash knockdown. And Stevens, you know, he probably has won all of the other rounds, Sergio, but as we've been pointing out, Periban's been doing some good work and has been making it tricky for Stevens at the very least.
He's been making it difficult for him, and he's been rolling with the shots, rolling with the punches. Whenever you hear that analogy, roll with the shots, while you're looking at it with Periban, Stevens has a lot of power behind his punches, but if he can't land it cleanly, it's not going to be effective, and it's definitely not going to scare off a veteran like Periban. See, that double jab was nice, you know, by Stevens. If he can double it upstairs and then stab him to the body, that's how you catch an older fighter off guard. It's just all jabs off of fast feet. Heavy body shots there by Stevens.
Good work there from Stevens. Now he brings that left hook upstairs. Stevens really banking on one of these power shots, eventually hurting Periban as he now starts to pick up the pace. But to your point, Sergio, at the pace that this round started at, Periban can hang at that pace provided he can absorb these shots.
Well, he doesn't have to absorb all of them. You notice that he fights in spurts. You know, the first half of the fight was Stevens, and now it's coming back, and this is Periban. That's how he's getting the respect. That's how he's staying in this fight. And that's what these old veterans do. That they know how to survive. They know how to fight in spurts and get what they want. Get in and get out on their terms.
Good sequence there from Stevens a moment ago. Two-punch combination to the body, and a jab immediately afterwards. And a little bit of good defense, bobbing and weaving under what Periban tossed back.
You know, that's what a good journeyman does. I mean, that's what Periban is now. You know, I would say he's a journeyman because he was a gatekeeper. He was at that position. He was a former title challenger, but now he's a journeyman. Journeymen know how to survive. They know how to make it to the end. They know how to make these fights with these younger fighters, these stronger fighters, very difficult with them. And it's not by competing with their vigor or their speed or their power. It's just by slowing the pace down.
Shot to the body there from Stevens.
Yep, and look, you can see Periban smiling, but that's exactly what Stevens needs to do. Keep concentrating on the body.
Más clarito, mijo. Más clarito. Así vamos bien, pero más clarito. Acuérdate que estamos en...
Well, coming up on May 27th, the welterweight sensation Alexis Rocha returns to the ring when he takes on Anthony Young, whom he was previously scheduled to face earlier this year. Rocha will be looking to keep up his momentum after his knockout victory over George Ashe last January. And we see William Zepeda already getting wrapped up. The volume punching sensation. He'll be in our main event a little bit later on. And he'll be taking on this man, the deeply focused Jaime Arboleda, the former title contender at 130 pounds, coming up to 130 to take on Zepeda tonight.
This is going to be an important round for David Stevens because what his team, what Ronnie Shields insisted in the fighter meetings, they don't want this fight to get out of control. They don't want it to go into the later rounds where Periban has the experience. So this is going to be a crucial round for Stevens to get respect and make him feel his age. Make Marco Antonio Periban feel his age.
These are also interesting rounds to watch for people kind of evaluating Stevens as well, because, well, number one, he scored that last second KO in his last fight, so we know he can be dangerous later on. But that said, he did admit that he was starting to breathe heavy in the final 2 rounds of his last fight as well. So we're going to see how he looks in round 6, 7, 8.
And he also said he should have jabbed a lot more earlier, which is what he should be doing here, and not let his opponent control the pace of the fight by moving, cut off the ring. And you can see that Periban's only been moving one way, to his left. He hasn't been moving to his right because that takes more leg strength. So it should be a lot easier for David Stevens to cut off the ring if it's only going in one direction.
Periban's corner telling him in between rounds that Stevens is only looking for the knockout. They're telling him just to keep moving because Stevens is getting tired. Now that said, Stevens looking a little busier here in round 6 than he was in round 5. Well, we can evaluate how busy each of these men are thanks to our friends at CompuBox as we take a look at the total. Stevens very accurate thus far. You see landing 80 of 145, but Periban not too bad himself, landing 50 punches so far of 160 for a 31% clip. Stevens going back downstairs to the body, hard body shots.
And those are the best punches that have been landing. The cleaner, harder punches have been down to the body. Just like that. And that hurt right there. That caught the attention of Periban right there.
Periban certainly went for a walk there, circling out, taking a deep breath after that left hook to the body. Good shot there from Periban on the inside, but Stevens still unloading with power shots himself. Good shot again.
Both fighters landing good shots.
Periban told us he was still willing to get involved with a fight like this. And the old gunslinger is giving David Stevens a real fight. Final 10 seconds of round 6. An entertaining opener. David Stevens said he thought this could be a short night, but he'll be in the deep waters now against Periban.
A pensar, cabrón. Lo único, lo estás haciendo muy bien. Si lo dejas un ratito, que él se crezca, ya no nos lo vamos a quitar de encima. ¿Qué tienes que hacer? Trabajarlo, mijo, trabajarlo. Vienen 2 rounds nada más, Marco. 2 rounds, papá.
Let's take a look at some replays from the previous round.
There's Stevens double jabbing his way in, which is what he should be doing just to get to the body. Good punches to the body. He concentrates on both sides of the body. More head movement though, so you can't be pulling up like that. You gotta stay down. When you're going to the body, stay down. Experienced fighters, especially like Periban, they'll use their long reach. You can see how he can punch long and behind the guard of Stevens, even when Stevens is pulling away. And that's because of the 77-inch reach.
Round 7 begins. 2 to go here in our opening contest as David Stevens opens it up well, stepping in with a nice left hook. One thing I think we've definitely seen here, Sergio, with Periban and with Stevens is that Periban is clearly making Stevens think a little bit more than he's had to do in any of his previous fights. Stevens, again, probably winning this fight, but you can see the wheels turning a little bit because Periban is making him a little bit uncertain at times.
And that's what you want to do when you test a fighter with only a dozen fights. You know, David Stevens, this is exactly the type of
Hard
fight
right hand there from Periban. Sorry about that, Sergio. That was a flush right hand right on the chin.
It was, because Periban timed the aggression of Stevens coming in, catching him with the overhand a counter right. But going back to Stevens is, you know, when you have a fighter with only 12 fights, he hasn't really experienced much, especially a former title challenger and a guy who's been in there with some beasts in Periban. This is going to be a great learning experience for Stevens, but definitely not what he expected or wanted. He wanted an early night or an early knockout. That's not the case anymore.
Well, Alberto Duran was just listening in the corner of David Stevens, and Ronnie Shields is telling David Stevens, you're loading up on your right hand a little bit too much. Just shoot it straight out from the shoulder.
You know, that comes with maturity, man. I mean, whenever you're a strong power punch, you think you're gonna knock everything in front of you out. That's not the case, especially with veterans, guys that have been in there with punchers. Power doesn't intimidate nobody, especially when you have experience. It's speed that intimidates.
Stevens rolling under that right hand, comes back with a left hook of his own. There's a sharper left hook that lands on the chin of Periban, but he takes it well. Tries to fire back with an uppercut. Periban going downstairs with a right hand as well.
By Periban right there. Yeah, you can see that his long reach and his reach advantage is giving issues to the shorter fighter in Stevens.
We approach the final 10 seconds here of round 7.
Every time Stevens punches, Periban punches right back. He's a reactive counter puncher, Periban. Those are annoying type of counter punchers.
Snapping jab there from Periban. That'll do it for round 7. Coming up on Saturday, June 3rd, the pound-for-pound great, the GOAT, Claressa Shields, will make her first defense of her undisputed middleweight title as she takes on Hannah Gabriels in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay? Come on, man. This guy got nothing for you. All right? Move the head side to side. Stay behind your jab. When you get close, both hands got to go. Okay?
De tirar. Entretenga, ahí se lo cansa, mi ya no trae piernas. Ya no. Entonces, va a querer salir otra vez, te lo repito. A querer salir con todo. ¿Ok? Estoy esta pelea, mi
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 8th and final round.
Eighth and final round here between David Stevens and Marco Antonio Periban. And two very different vibes in the corner right now. A little bit of disappointment in the corner of David Stevens, a little bit of optimism in the corner of Marco Antonio Periban. And Sergio, that might not be indicative of where the scorecards are at right now, but one thing I think is certain, one man is overperforming what we expected out of him, and Stevens maybe not quite living up to what he expected he would do tonight.
That's exactly. You said it perfectly. You said everything I was thinking right now, because there is frustration in the corner of Stevens. Ronnie Shields he wanted more. He expected more, and of course they expected a knockout. And there's a little bit of not only like relief on the side of Periban, but you know they're really impressed with what the old man has been able to do here. He's given the younger, stronger, faster fighter fits, and it looks like he's going to go and cross the finish line.
Well, Periban even told us, listen, if I lose, it doesn't necessarily mean I'll retire. If I lose in humiliating fashion, I will definitely consider it. But Periban probably impressing himself right now.
And that's the sense that I'm getting from the corner. I mean, they're going to live to fight another day and cash another check. Because fighters like Periban, they can test any young prospect, any young hotshot. And, you know, David Stevens is getting a little humbled up right now, but in the end, I know it sounds cliche, this is exactly what he needed.
Keep in mind, Stevens does have a penchant for the dramatic. That knockout in the final 2 seconds against Sean Hemphill. See if he could summon something extraordinary here to close things out.
Wouldn't that be something, right?
Periban goes downstairs with a nice right hand under the elbow.
Punch up, punch up, punch up.
Periban looking dramatically better than he did against Patrick McCrory last August in Belfast.
Stevens is pushing his punches now. There's no pop or explosion to his power anymore. He's pushing that right hand. And Periban knows it, you know. Periban's up. That's a good right hand right there.
Terrific shot there from Stevens. And I think I saw Periban kind of have to stabilize himself temporarily. But with 20 seconds remaining in this fight, you have to wonder if there's enough time for David Stevens to capitalize. He only needed 2 seconds last time out. But Periban, much trickier for Stevens than was Sean Hemphill. A good learning experience for young David Stevens here tonight. The old veteran, Marco Antonio Periban, had a little bit left in the tank.
Yeah, he did. And you know what? I'm with Team Periban.
Ladies and gentlemen, here from College Park Center, we now go to the judges' scorecards. Judges Javier Alvarez and Judge Jesse Reyes score this contest 78-73. And Judge David Yakabuchi has the bout 77-74 to the winner by unanimous decision. And he is still undefeated from Reading, Pennsylvania, Dynamite David Stevens.
Well, David Stevens victorious, but a muted expression on his